What do Falcons do? Rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general, the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, lifelong sports fan and the Golden Hard Dog. And today, coming at you pretty rapidly after seeing the 53-man roster here, just released as of about 10 minutes ago. It's about 4:15 right now. Just wanted to real quick run through this. It looks like on offense, we have elected to keep 3 quarterbacks, so Logan Woodside is going to be the third guy there, along with Taylor Heineke. In a surprise move, we are only keeping 4 total guys between running back and fullback. Keith Smith will serve as fullback, and otherwise we're going to have Cordell Patterson, Bijan Robinson, and Tyler Algier. It was thought that Godwin Igwebuike did enough to shine in the preseason. I actually really liked Godwin, and I thought he should be our final guy, but he ended up not making the final cut. We are keeping 5 wide receivers in Drake London, Matt Collins, Scotty Miller, Carter Hodge. Hopefully he's healthy after an initial injury in week 2 of the preseason. And then Josh Ali, who had an okay preseason. Ali, I'm not sure exactly how you say it. Tight end is another one that's a little bit surprising. We only have 4. John Fitzpatrick, our 6th round pick from last year from UGA, has made the roster. He made the bubble after a lot of people thought he would not. Jonnu Smith, who we traded for and knows Arthur Smith's offense very well, is no surprise to make the team. Kyle Pitts, and then fan favorite from last year who had a decent connection with Mariota, about the only guy that had a decent connection with Mariota, Michael Pruitt, has also made the final 53-man roster. And then at line, we're actually going to keep 9 linemen here. Our starting 5 are going to be Chris Lindstrom, Drew Dahlman, Jake Matthews, Matthew Bergeron, and Caleb McGarry. And then we are also going to have as depth Joshua Miles, Javon Gwynn, Kyle Hinton, and Ryan Newsel. So we will have a little bit of extra offensive line depth. So far on the offense, that's pretty much everybody there. To me, the only big surprise is Logan Woodside. I really thought we would put him just on the practice squad, let him waive, but he did make the 53-man roster. I really thought with us being a run-heavy offense that we would want that 4th wide receiver back there, but I guess it makes sense. Godwin is not going to be a guy that would be playing in the special teams for us. He's not really he's not that guy for us, so it makes sense that he doesn't have an extra role, so he's just eating up a roster spot if everybody is healthy. Probably not going to see the field that much. I just really liked him and wish we could have kept him. And hopefully we were able to retain him on the practice squad. Obviously, that information will probably come out over the course of the next little bit of time here. So let's go on to the way this is broken down in the defense. It's just broken down by linebacker, not inside, outside, any of that. And same thing with defensive line. It's not broken down by end. It's just broken down by defensive line. And defensive backs are the same way. It's not broken down by position. Let's start with the linebackers. So Arnold Ebiketie, no surprise, 2nd round pick from last year. Bud Dupree, brought him on as a pretty hefty free agent. So I'm not surprised there. D'Angelo Malone, who was a 4th rounder a few years ago. Caden Ellis, who we paid a bunch of money to and has looked great in the preseason. Lorenzo Carter on a 2-year deal. Nate Landman, Tay Davis, and Troy Anderson, again, another 2nd round pick that we took last year. So no surprise about any of these guys. I think they've all been guys that we were pretty sure were locked in for some time now. Then we can move on to the defensive line. We have Calais Campbell, David Onyemata, Grady Jarrett, Taquan Graham, Zach Harrison, 3rd round pick this year. And then the guys who also made it were Albert Huggins and Joe Gaziano. So we'll see how they do. So we're going to go with 7 defensive linemen. Again, you need depth there as much as possible. We're probably going to be running with 2 or 3 at any given time here. And then for the defensive backs, this is all of our corners and this is all of our safeties. So A.J. Terrell, Cart Phillips III, again, 4th rounder this year, who we really, really like. D. Alford, Jalen Hawkins, Jesse Bates III, big free agent that we brought in. Richie Grant, 2nd rounder from a few years back. Trey Flowers, who looked pretty good in the preseason. Mike Hughes, former, I think he was a 1st round pick from several years ago. Jeff Okudah, who we got in a trade. And then I love the fact that we were able to get this guy on the roster. DeMarco Hellams had a hell of a preseason, just balling out as a 7th round pick this year, working his ass off to get onto this 53-man roster. Has just looked absolutely phenomenal. I couldn't be happier for the guy. So again, Pretty solid team here. That's going to be the 53-man roster. I'm not really concerned about special teams. We got Bradley Pinion at punter, Liam McCullough, star long snapper. Should have kept Josh Harris, just my opinion. Pro bowler and solid guy from Georgia, or from the state of Georgia, Auburn grad, won the national title with Auburn back when Cam Newton was a quarterback. And again, was a solid player for us, friend of the show, friend of mine in real life. So I would have liked to have seen him, but he's with San Diego now, or not San Diego, Los Angeles Chargers now. So hopefully they do well with him. And then obviously Younghoe Koo is going to stay with us as well as a kicker. Younghoe down game one and ended up doing okay for the rest of the preseason. But we'll see what happens. We got a few weeks here before football happens. So on injured reserve, we are going to be keeping Cornell Armstrong as a defensive back and Penny Hart wide receiver. Most recent releases were J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, wide receiver. Breon Borders was a guy that a lot of people thought was going to make the team, but he was on the border, pardon the pun, and he really had a god-awful preseason week 3 against starters for Pittsburgh. Showed that he is not a quality starter. Andre Smith Jr. also got cut. Jonathan Harrison got cut, and Kamiko Toure got released today, or in the last week or so. The guys that to me are probably the biggest shockers that got waived, just quickly looking at that list, you had Darren Hall. That was a little bit of a surprise linebacker for us. He played okay last year, but not great. I've already talked about Godwin Igwebuike. I love him. I hope he finds a way to our practice squad. And if somebody gets hurt, I would feel very confident that he could step in and have some role. I don't think he's going to be hurting for a team. Parker Hesse, tight end. I'm kind of surprised with the type of packages that Arthur Smith likes to run that we did not keep 5 tight ends. And Parker Hesse was the guy that I was surprised did not make the team, just because, again, another integral part of the team last year. But again, shows growth that we're moving on. Frank Ginda, he was just kind of a long shot as the defensive player of the year from, I think, the USFL. He might have been XFL, I don't remember. But guy who had a long shot to make the team, and he did not end up doing so. And then I feel like there was one more that was kind of, Timmy Horn, defensive lineman, nose tackle. A little surprised that he didn't make the roster just for depth purposes, but overall, not a guy that we absolutely have to have. Tyler Vrabel also didn't make it. Justin Schaefer, Georgia offensive lineman, got cut. I had hoped he would do well. And then Carlos Washington didn't look good at running back in the preseason so far. But anyways, that's my quick reaction and quick breakdown of our 53-man roster. These are the guys that we're going to be rolling with for the rest of the year. Obviously, injuries happen, and some of these guys will go to the practice squad. Some of them will get called up at different times, and some of them will hit free agency and may find themselves against us at some point in time. But I think this is a pretty solid team overall. It's one that I feel good about going into the season. I am hopeful that Ritter is the quarterback that we need. He has all the talent around him to do well. He has a top 10 offensive line. He has potentially a top 3 running back, and definitely a top 3 running back committee. If nothing else. He's got Drake London and Kyle Pitts to round out basically wide receiver 1 and 2 in any way you want to shape it out there. And then Mac Hollins and Scotty Miller to kind of fall back on as well. Just solid pieces to do that. Mac Hollins looking great in the limited preseason action. He's got Jonnu Smith as well to kind of take over the role that Michael Pruitt did last year as a solid option. So again, our offense should be clicking, and defensively is where we have struggled for the last few years. Offensively, it was not great last year, but defense has been what's lost us games more often than not over the past few years. We have done everything humanly possible to try and beef up this defensive line and try and create pass rush out of nowhere. I am very excited for Ryan Nielsen's defensive scheme. Calais Campbell stepping in there as a veteran leader with David Onyemata kind of helping bring this new scheme to light. Grady Jarrett getting the help that he much needs and much deserves. Caden Ellis and Troy Anderson likely providing the middle of the field coverage. Caden Ellis looking like a man on fire in the preseason so far, and then Arnold Ebiketie and Bud Dupree playing on the outside most of the time, with Lorenzo Carter coming in as a backup. So I'm excited. I think this team has potential. And then again, defensive backs, AJ Terrell, Jeff Okudah when he's healthy. I'm hoping Clark Phillips III gets a shot at some point in time because I think he's going to end up being a starter for us at some point. Jesse Bates in there. And then either Richie Grant or Jalen Hawkins at the other safety position. Heck, at this point, put DeMarco Hellams in there. He has looked better than either of those two guys have in their 1 to 2 years with the Falcons so far. I'm more than fine to give DeMarco Hellams a shot at this point, given what he's shown us in the preseason against good talent. But that's just what I got for you guys. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. Again, I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers by the end of the 2023 season, which is not that far away now, guys. So it's going to be a good year. I feel good about the Falcons. I think we're going to have a solid defense. I think we're going to have an okay offense overall, as long as Ritter doesn't turn the ball over. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always, rise up.